It's the new Ultra Magnus figure! I am so excited I finally own this Transformer because I absolutely love Ultra Magnus. I mean, majority of the figures I own are Ultra Magnus. But whether you like Minimus Ambus being the inner robot or the White Prime, I'm just happy we have an armored version of this character. I mean, look at this thing. It's so good for a leader class figure. I gotta say, the recent combined efforts of Hasbro and Takara really pays justice to the detail and quality of the Siege toy line. Some major key points would be the painting and the weight of these figures, which is far better than what we recently received with the Combiner Wars, Titan Returns, and Power of the Primes toy lines. For those of you who don't know, we haven't had an armored Magnus since G1. Super Mode from the 2001 Car Robot RID line is kinda like it, although Optimus Prime wears Ultra Magnus, and the recent Combiner Wars version with Minimus Ambus at least recognized the Magnus armor, but I feel like it doesn't really count. I also don't think the third-party Perfect Effect or Mebsuda armors count since they weren't released by Hasbro Takara, but those definitely did some justice to the original toy of this character, which this one is clearly designed on. But looking at this figure, it definitely tickles my G1 nostalgia while giving it a nice quote-unquote Cybertronian update. I mean, with so many White Prime figures that have come out, we were bound to get one that eventually got a set of full-on attachable armor. I really like how the vehicle mode pays homage to the G1 and the 2001 Car Robots RID design. Even the armor parts have a similar transformation to the Super Mode of that figure. Kinda makes you think that they could have done something like this earlier. The only play feature that isn't present for the vehicle mode is the car storage. Previous iterations of the figure could actually store cars in its trailer, and although you can put some figures on top of this particular Magnus, you can't put anything inside. For me, that's not really a problem since I'll probably display this in robot mode, but if you were hoping for that particular play pattern, it's not included here. Transformation for the front cab is what you'd expect from any Optimus Prime cab-like figure. The arms come out of the main body of the cab, and the legs are the back of the cab which rotates to face forward. The unique part of this figure is that the bumper is on a groove that moves it to the upper back of the figure during transformation, which is pretty cool since it's purely to make the figure look better in robot mode, since in the super mode, the bumper moves back down. It's a really nice touch and a great attention to detail. As far as White Primes go, I think he's really great. He's reminiscent of the G1 counterpart with a full white body and bits of silver. The figure without the armor is also about a Voyager size, and compares pretty well with other versions of himself. Posability is alright. His head is on a pretty expressive ball joint, so he can show a lot of emotion despite not having a mouth. The arms rotate 360 degrees and can move out. Elbows and knees have joints. The wrists and waist swivel. Legs have a pretty sweet ratchet joint, and we do get a nice ankle pivot. The only thing that bothers me is how chunky his legs are. If his thighs weren't so big, I actually think it would look a lot better, but I figure it's only that way to fit with the super mode. Armoring up the figure is pretty simple. You need to first set up the main body of the figure before putting on the armor. Fold the heels in, pull out and twist his belt buckle, put the bumper down, and lastly tuck his head into the chest. The outer parts of the trailer curl up to form the armored legs, and the extra pieces of the trailer become armor for the arms, shoulders, and torso. Putting on the armor feels great since everything just slips on with ease. The only piece that I had a hard time with is the main torso piece since it's a clip-on, but just apply some pressure and you should be good. Once you have everything set up, oh my gosh, this thing is really tiny. It's hard for me to talk about this without mentioning size. I mean, compared to some of the leader class figures I can show you, you wouldn't expect it to be this small. I actually don't think it's that comparable, but people would argue that leader class figures in this line is more about quality rather than size. I mean, clearly I still bought this thing for about 50 bucks. So I'm probably one of those quality people, or a Magnus completionist. Other than that, I really like this figure. The fact that all the armor pieces just kind of slip on really helps with the posability since it's pretty much the same as the White Prime figure. It does have a clear resemblance to the G1 figure even though it has all these battle damaged markings, but that's the visual aesthetic for this line. I personally don't mind it, some do, but to each their own. Your accessories include 2 cannons, reminiscent of the G1 cannons, 2 black guns, and a silver rifle. However you want to display these on your figures is up to you, so I'll just leave it at that. Overall, I think this figure is pretty amazing. Looking at this figure is great, playing with this figure is great, having dinner with this figure is great. So if you're looking for a great figure, I think this may be a winner. The only thing I can say is that for $50, you're not getting much other than a Voyager-sized figure that has an add-on kit. However, if you were to compare this with something like the Classique's Ultra Magnus figure and the Perfect Effect City Commander upgrade kit, it might have been comparable since it was pretty much a $20 Voyager figure with a $40 upgrade kit at the time of its release. Of course, that particular set is much more expensive now. I don't even have the weapons upgrade for that thing. But I will have to say, when you put this figure in your Ultra Magnus collection or wherever you want to display it, he definitely stands out as one of the better ones in terms of design. This has been a review for the Siege War for Cybertron Leader Class Ultra Magnus. Thanks for watching.